A bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking because her trust is not in the branch, but in her own wings. Join me as I ring the Tibetan bowl as a call to service, listening to the sound as it fills the sanctuary and then recedes back into the silence. This is the time to open our hearts and our minds to what this service can bring us. Thank you, Michael. Well, good morning. Good morning and welcome members and friends and visitors, both in the sanctuary and on Zoom, to the Unitarian Universalists of the Chester River, a church that is special in our lives, active in the world, and grounded in love and justice. Love is the power that holds us together as a beloved community. And as we enter into worship, then let us open our hearts to the healing power of liberating love, which we call upon often and serves us so well. Perhaps you join us this morning seeking community and seeing familiar faces. Perhaps it's been a difficult week. Well, it's been a difficult week. Or there's a particular joy or sorrow to share. Perhaps you're wanting that feeling of connection with someone or some idea, some truth that today's service will open your mind and heart to. Whatever the reason, wherever you are on your life's path, we welcome you to this sanctuary where we can relinquish our fears and concerns, however briefly, where we can breathe in peace and center ourselves in love. So come be among us. You are welcome. My name is Annie Lavin, and I am service leading this morning with Joy Cavano. Our thoughts and prayers and love are with Reverend Catherine this morning, who is recuperating and on the mend at home, and we wish her speedy recovery. Our sermon later in the service is entitled, Trusting the Edge of Doubt. And now, gratitude to our musician and accompanist, Michael Casey, and the tech team. We love you all. Today's coffee hostesses and greeters, the religious education team, all of those who are helping make this service happen. And if you're thinking of joining this important group, you can sign up right on the whiteboard. We would be grateful. Right now, we have an announcement from Catherine, an important announcement. Come on up, Catherine, and share the good news with us.
I put on my sparkly party shoes because we exceeded our goal by 8%. We still have 3 in the mail. Now, hopefully that's for sure gonna happen. So we're $6,200 over goal, which means we can take $6,200 less out of our savings this year. So that's really pretty cool. So I really want to thank my team, Jackie Mathwick and Joy Kim, who helped me and on the sides and calling and putting things together. And want to thank all of you. I mean, I think you did an excellent job going beyond what you did last year. We really were a lot of people that stepped forward. And even some people that came forward this year that hadn't in the past. So that was pretty cool. So thank you very much. And we'll be getting all the real totals. And I guess they send reminders or something when people signed up for quarterly and annual. They'll be sending you reminders for that. So thank you.
Do we have someone with an announcement about last night? I know it was a grand success.
Yes. Of course, I'm no stand-in for Jane, but we made almost $8,000.
That's phenomenal, $8,000. Lots of hard work.
So that's, I think, about $1,000 over target.
Thank you all. Thank you all. Well, if your phones are silenced, we can begin. Joan will lead us in the chalice lighting words. They are in your order of service while I light the chalice.
We gather today to hear the call of trust. Though our hearts have been bruised by broken promises and dreams deferred, may we listen again for that longing to repair, to be repaired, that hunger to start anew. Like this flame, trust is something that needs to be rekindled again and again. May today spark the fire of a new match.
I have virtually lit the candle of the chalice. My little light went out. Let me just check to see if I have a...
We could sing the song.
Yeah.
What's that, my little butter mine? I'm gonna let it shine.
Takes a village. Thank you, Joan. And now our hymn 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song. Please rise as you are able.
It's actually 108.
It's
108.
There has been, yes, it's 108 in your gray hymnal. The theme of today's service, in fact, all month, is about trust. And I read this: trust is a confident engagement with the unknown. Do you agree? For opening words, I'll share those of Jeff Foster. He's an author and spiritual leader in England. They're brief, but they spoke to me, and maybe they will to you as well. And he's entitled it, Somehow I'm Always Held. In my short time on this planet, I have known great sorrow, plunged into the depths of oceanic despair, been thrown so deeply into my loneliness that I thought I would never return. I've tasted the ecstatic joy of meditation, the fierce intimacy of love, the savage pains of heartbreak, the excitement of unexpected success, and the blows of sudden failure. There were times I thought I'd never make it, times when my dreams had been shattered so thoroughly I couldn't imagine how life would ever go on. Yet it went on, and sometimes I found humility within the devastation. And out of the ashes of imagined futures often grew new and present joys, and no experience was ever wasted. I have come to trust life completely. Trust even the times when I forget how to trust at all. Trust that life doesn't always go according to plan, because there is no plan, only life. And even the times of great uncertainty hold supreme intelligence. And sometimes you have to fall to stand more fearlessly with greater kindness. And sometimes I am always held in a way I cannot explain and do not want to. I may be crushed yet again before too long. I may experience further seemingly insurmountable challenges and heartbreaks, but somehow I am always held. Somehow I am always held. Let's take a moment to remember a time when you felt held under trying circumstances, when maybe it felt like the floor was opening and yet you weren't in free fall, you were held. Blessed be. And now for acknowledgements of the heart. That time in the service when we share joys and concerns, we get to know each other better in this blessed community. And I'll start with the first candle. You can come up and share using the mic, and I will light the candle. The first one will be for all the joys and concerns in this world, especially the ones throughout the world that are tearing at our hearts today. You can add the specific ones that are touching your heart this morning.
Well, about half hour before Eileen and I left to come here this morning, my mother called out my name in terror, and she had fallen on the bathroom floor. She's 97, and she's very hale and hearty, but it looked like a murder scene. But we got it cleaned up. She, hit the back of her head, and we've wiped it up and put ice on it, and she seems to be fine. But, please keep her in your thoughts.
And she's here with us this morning.
That sounds like the Saturday morning many years ago when my mother and I always talked to each other on Saturday. And she lived in Wilmington and we were here. And I said, "Mom, how are you?" And she said, "Well, I'm better." I won't tell you the rest of the story, but she was fine, and that precipitated her moving here. What I did want to say is that I had a brief Zoomish call with a niece who is in South Korea, teaching English to South Korean children. And of course, the conversation led to what in the world is happening over there. And I asked her about the response to what is happening here, what the Koreans thought. And she said all the ones that she had talked to, they all were thinking, "Oh my God, what is happening over there?" and showed a lot of affectionate and positive concern for what is happening over here. So we're not alone in this. The world is reacting. Part of the world is reacting.
Thanks, Connie.
So I just wanted to give an update on Darlene, our office administrator. She's been transferred from the hospital to the nursing home here in Chestertown, the resorts at Chester River. So she's close by and happy to be here and definitely improved. Her address and phone number are posted on the whiteboard out there, but now that she's back in our community, we don't want to overwhelm her with visits. So she did ask if you would call her first and check if it's a good time to visit. Mornings aren't good because all the routine personal care goes on and that kind of thing. So she is open to visitors, but we don't want to swarm her. So give her a call and say hi, and hopefully she's doing better. So.
Connie's story reminded me of my grandson who's a semester in the Czech Republic. He's in Prague. And we had an agreement that we were going to FaceTime each other. And I'm not great at FaceTiming or doing any of that. I FaceTime my daughter in Chestertown. That's the extent of it. So we were supposed to FaceTime, and I didn't know how to do it. So I pressed, put the numbers in, and his face appears on the screen in Prague. And I didn't know it was that easy. But that was the same story. He's over there with all of these, Czech folks and all over Europe, and they're young kids, and their questions are the same, like, what's happening in America? Like, what? And they're kids, and they're looking at him, and he's defending the United States. But disbelief at every age. So, does anyone else have a joy or a concern? Well, for those that are in the heart that are unspoken now, we'll have a moment of silence. Blessed be. Many of us may be familiar with the Psalm 23, the Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd. It is endearing at every age, as a young child or at any stage of life, when there is a need to be comforted, to be reminded of a shepherd who will bring you to green pastures and still waters, where there is no evil and you will find peace. This morning, Joan and I will read you a lovely reworking of this psalm. It is entitled Psalm 23 for this moment. It will ring familiar, but it has been recast in the language of love, and I can't think, I'm still thinking of a time when these words are more needed than now to hopefully bring peace and healing. Look for the similarities between the two.
Psalm 23 for this moment by Kevin Tarsa. May I remember in this tender moment that love is my guide, always shepherding me toward ways of openness and compassion.
I have what I need, really, with love at my side. Above me, below me, in front of me, behind me, inside every cell of me, love infused everywhere.
Just when the weight of the world I inhabit threatens to drop me in place and press my hope down into the ground beneath me, love invites me to rest for a gentle while and leads the center of my soul to the quiet, still, restoring waters nearby that somehow I had not noticed.
And so love quietly sets me once again on its tender and demanding path.
Even when the walls close around me and the cries of death echo through untold corners, gripping my heart with fear and sadness, I know that all will be well, that I will be well, when love whispers near to me, glints at the corner of my eye, rests with gentle and persistent invitation upon my shoulders.
Yes, love blesses me, even as the sources and symbols of my pain look on. Love blesses me from its infinite well, and I turn and notice that goodness and kindness and grace follow me everywhere, everywhere I go.
I live in a house of love. Love will not let me go.
I live in a house of love and always will. Amen. And now we will have a hymn, Love Will Guide Us. Please stand as you are able. It's number 131 in the gray hymnal. And now we'll have the offering. I will pass the baskets to support the mission of this church. With gratitude, we accept your generosity. And now Joan will come up and give us a reflection.
Thank you, Annie. So I was asked to say a few words, personal reflections on the notion of trust. When Annie had asked me to do this, I couldn't get beyond the dark thoughts about the lack of trust in our world today. I'm sure everyone can connect to that feeling. A broken trust in our leaders who lie so glibly, who turn their backs on allies, on the poor, the sick, and the marginalized, on refugees. Leaders who threaten to destroy our centuries-old beloved institutions of democracy that we had always trusted to protect us. But I soldiered on, trying to come up with something positive and more personal to share. So I asked myself, who do I trust? Of course, the people that are closest to me came to mind: my beloved spouse, Eileen, my mom, who's going on 97, who you heard about earlier, several lifelong friends, and even my distant yet bedrock brother. But this kind of trust felt like dependence. So then I realized the most important vessel of my trust has got to be myself. No matter how often I may stumble or fail or disappoint myself, each new day offers an opportunity to get up and try again. I'm taking a course at WCR, which many of you probably do, this one on Stoicism. Catherine Brooks and Harry and Joy and others are in this class. And we're learning that the Stoics instruct us not to care about what others think, but to trust and follow our own inner sense of what is right. We can't control our fate, a fact that's painfully clear to all of us now more than ever, but we can control how we meet it. We must face life's challenges with reason and virtue, with courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. We should act with sympathy for others, withhold judgment, and display tolerance, humility, and patience. Besides these, the most important lesson I've taken from the Stoics is to make up my mind that nothing is as important to do as what my own nature dictates, and to bear what the world's nature sends me. A tall order, to be sure, and it requires that one know oneself and not to worry about what others think. Don't be apologetic or self-conscious, but single-minded in fulfilling your purpose. Lest you imagine this means I've set out to save the world, fear not. I've learned a complementary lesson from another WCR class on near-death experiences. Many who have died briefly and come back speak of a panoramic life review that they do, sometimes accompanied by another spirit, or it's just a self-reflective look back on their life. And it's an uplifting experience. They don't feel judged during this experience, but the overriding question that they do ask themselves was, and I found this interesting, and this was from person to person, how well did they give and receive love? And this becomes the most important thing in looking back on their lives after they've died, and I was just very moved by that. And what was their effect on other people? A common theme was feeling that when they looked back on their lives, it wasn't their professional accomplishments, of which they were so proud during their life on Earth, that mattered the most to them, but rather the small interactions with people, like how they made someone feel better after smiling at them on the street. Something very simple like that. These reflections on the importance of digging deep and finding oneself, I always find best expressed by the poet Mary Oliver. So, a fan in the audience. So I'll read an excerpted version of The Journey by Mary Oliver. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. But you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own. That kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. Thank you.
Well, the next thing is on, the list says sermon, so I guess that's me. Inside your order of service, there's a sheet that I'd like you to take out. There's a picture and the edge of doubt. And I'd like to begin by us reading together about The Edge of Doubt by Albert Hofstadter. Together, there is always that edge of doubt. Trust it. That's where the new things come from. If you can't live with it, get out, because when it's gone, you're on automatic, repeating something you've learned. Let your prayer be, save me from that tempting certainty that leads me back from the edge, that dark edge. This page first caught my eye a number of years ago, lying out there in the lobby, and I was intrigued by it. Be careful what you just happen to pick up as you walk by things. It was the starkness and the isolation of the figure that drew me in and made me curious as well. As I read the words about the edge of doubt, it whetted my interest even more. This figure on the cliff by the sea, this dark place I was looking at, seemed somewhat familiar and was reminding me of the isolation and the aloneness one can feel when faced with major decision-making in life, both professionally and personally. Most of us have had those times, maybe, when it's the 11th hour and you're out there mentally somewhere, if not on a cliff, then someplace with no distraction, no easy off-ramps, and there you are, debating with yourself the facts as you know them, or patiently waiting for more revelation, and there's only silence. For me, this is often how it looks or feels. It might appear stark at first. Well, it is stark, but after being there a number of times, it becomes familiar and comforting as well, lending itself to the important work at hand. Someone looked at this and said, it looks kind of scary, but not really. I think of it, you're alone, it's the break of day, it's the first light of day. There's no pollution up there, it's clear. It's serious work. Often the decision being made, you're weighing at this time, are ones that have ramifications for ourselves and those we love that will affect you for a lifetime. People are counting on you for your judgment. When we come to the edge of doubt, we're not settling for any easy answer or any certainty, or we will be comfortably away from the edge by now. But it's at the edge we want to be. It's where new ideas come from, where, as the picture shows, the first light of dawn breaks. Here we're looking for the right answer, fresh ideas, possibilities. And so we go to the edge to open our minds and get to the work, asking the right questions or facing the questions that need the answers, and then do the work of challenging those answers and testing them and think about possibilities. Allow creativity to bring forth the what ifs. Give space for new thoughts and ideas to work their way through the familiar, the easy and comfortable answer. This is the place where tough decisions are made and risks are taken. And yes, it's often a hard place to be, arguing with oneself, often against what we would want, and sometimes proving ourselves wrong. Wrestling with the obvious answers that keep surfacing, even though it's often not the one we're expecting or even want, and it might be painful to accept. The edge of doubt is also where we can find ourselves waiting in stunning silence for an answer and feeling alone and unsure, but resisting the urge to give up, to slip back, to leave. We hang on, trusting that the answer will come. The night's darkest hour is before the dawn, before the first light breaks. And until then, out there on the edge, it's only been you and trust. Trust keeping vigil all the while. It's here on the edge we learn to trust in ourselves, the spirit of life. Trust in God, as that word has meaning for you. And it's trust that stays the course, helping to resist the temptation to slip back to conformity where it's safer, maybe less challenging, easier, more familiar. In a lifetime, there have been so many times we've been faced with questions, a decision to make, big and small. Looking back now, maybe we can identify times when we were on that edge and stayed the course. Or maybe when we retreated from the edge, when we broke faith with the trust we've been holding on to, and we retreated from the challenge, and maybe we lived to regret it, and maybe not. No judgment here. As the years go by, we see life's choices and challenges in so many different lights, and I hope with less judgment. No judgment. Who can sit in judgment looking back at what could have been or should have been, but only now with gratitude and accept what was? It's who we were at the time, what we were able to do at the time, and that's enough. Looking back, we may marvel at what life brought to us through the years. Someone we were so new at this wonder called adulthood. Remember how amazed we were to have even landed there, and how we lived our way through so much without any help, even from social media. We all had lives with challenges of many sorts that should make us proud of the tough decisions that we made and the staunch stances we took in the face of adversity. Think of the courage shown in those young lives. Maybe we called it survival. The midnight talks we had with ourselves, maybe a friend or partner if we were lucky. The wars, Vietnam and Korea. Think of the pep talks we gave ourselves while sitting in the car before meetings with those whose visions differed from our own. Yes, you can. Keeping midnight vigils, weighing the pros and cons that would alter career paths. Writing dissertations with sticky fingers after putting the kids to bed. Keeping to our values, taking risks, weighing decisions for ourselves and other lives as well, and all the while trusting. Did we get it right? Was it trusting that got us through so much when sometimes we were barely adults? Did we get better at trusting? How often was our trust broken, and how did that affect those years and these today? You may be thinking that standing out there on that blustery edge of doubt was for younger days and doesn't extend to later years, like now. And you'd be wrong. Quaker spiritual writer Parker Palmer adds that the older we get, the more our lives are enriched by lessons we weren't ready to learn when we were young. And so those lessons may come round again, like the rosary beads or the Buddhist mala beads. You might spot them coming round. Perhaps you already have, and you might be more ready to learn the life lessons they hold this time. You might consider this a heads up. You know, Like any good practice, the edge of doubt can be used to mindfully fit into any part of our life, any part of our day. I think of this staying close to the edge where the first light dawns, and not sliding into automatic rote behavior as an important practice, a daily practice, not just reserved for the big decisions in life, though it's critical there, but really before any decision, whether life-changing as we referenced earlier, or even the small day-to-day decisions. Taking time to create those important moments of clarity can come in quiet moments. It doesn't have to be on a cliffside. It can be easily driving home or in the Acme line. The mind will create its own needed moment of pause and clarity and challenge our weak excuses that we love to make. For me, it always weighs in with challenging me to be more creative on such matters as how to spend the hours of my day, and perhaps the quality of the work with which I fill them. Big decisions or small, staying near the edge where the first light breaks, keeps me aware and helps me from slipping back repeatedly into that mindlessness, which is so easy to do. Donna Markova, the poet, she writes the following for these times. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came to me as seed goes to the next as blossom, and that which comes to me as blossom goes on as fruit. In these few lines, I'm reminded of living without fear. Remember that? And trusting we can hope to reclaim life from the ranting voices of commercials and round-the-clock breaking news and realities which grow exponentially heartbreaking every day. But every day we do have a choice to loosen our hearts until they become wings, as the poet suggests. I love the image. While we have no playbook for guidance for the times we live in, we can trust ourselves, our judgment, and the lives and wisdom we've gained while standing on the edge of doubt. I think we've been there often, and ask the questions with a deep trust in our own right and ability to discern the truth. As UUs, we have our principles and our faith community, which has always been a source of inspiration and comfort, and will continue to be. This very faith tradition we have chosen, just saying the word chosen, is so reflective of the message today, of actively choosing to be here. To be Unitarian Universalists is certainly not being on automatic when selecting a religious community. For Unitarian Universalism keeps nudging us to think and question and probe, to stretch and wonder, and it challenges us to be our best way of being. As we know, Unitarian Universalism is not the typical mainstream religion. It has been described not as a rock to hold on to, but a river to swim in. Most folks want a set of beliefs to hold on to. They want rules to guide them in all situations. In other words, they want a foundation for a spiritual fortress, that tempting certainty that leads one back from the edge instead of standing on the edge bravely. However, UUs, you know what we want. We want to dive into the river and explore. We want to be with others who engage in this world to promote well-being for all. Life itself is more like a river than a rock. Life is in flux, we know. It changes, it twists and turns, ebbs and flows. When a river encounters a boulder, the boulder may win for a while, but eventually, even the most massive stone is worn away by the currents of time. Unitarian Universalism is about learning to swim in the river rather than climbing out onto the rock. And doesn't that just sound like all of us? And so here we are as a beloved community whose love and support will be important in those days ahead as new challenges face us. We stand as individuals and as a faith community on the edge of doubt, thinking, questioning, challenging, humble, yet well fortified and holding on to trust and love as we face an uncertain tomorrow. I'm going to end with some words by Brian Doyle. He says, "In the face of all this, all you can do is face the world with quiet grace and hope you make a sliver of difference. You must trust that you being the best possible you somehow matters. That trying to be an honest and tender parent will echo for centuries through your tribe. That doing your chosen work with creativity and diligence will shiver people far beyond your ken. That being an attentive and generous friend and citizen will prevent a thread or two of the social fabric from unraveling. And you must do all this with a certain knowledge that you will never get proper credit for it. And in fact, the vast majority of things you do right will go utterly unremarkable. This is what I know, that the small is huge, that the tiny is vast, and you can put your trust in this. Blessed be. Amen." And now we'll have a cup of coffee. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I think I need this. Okay. We're going to have our sermon, 1021, Lean on Me. Please stand as you are able. It's in the Teal book. Please stand as you're able.
1, 2, 3, 4.
if we have time or not. Oh, you okay?
That lean on me in the middle of it comes back.
Okay, we'll pass the mic if anyone has anything to say. This would be your time, Kimmy.
I have to say this before I lose my train of thought. First of all, thank you. That was so much to think about and lovely. Trust is such a good conversation piece at the moment. At the end of what you're saying, I'm not sure if you said this intentionally, but you said, as we go forth and the challenges will have to face us. And I'm not sure if you said it that way on purpose, but it was such a statement of trust in my mind that we're what the challenges have to face, because we will stand for what is righteous and good. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we should ever underestimate what we are and what we have. We have a lifetime of living and learning, and very strong.
I wanted to say something, I'm sorry.
Oh, did you want?
No, I'm sorry, but can I do it now?
Sure.
This kind of fits our sermon. It's,
Congresswoman, Elon and Trump are trying to threaten and intimidate. Are you intimidated?
No.
What's the answer?
Listen, here's the reality. Now, I can't speak for anybody else, but I used to ask myself, if I was a part of the civil rights movement back in the day, what role would I play? Never imagined that I would be able to play this type of role, because we know that they had to fight so that seats like this could exist in the Congress in the first place. So as only the 55th Black woman elected to Congress, knowing that people fought for what they could not see, I think that I owe it not only to the generations that came before me, but the generations that are coming behind me. If they could risk their lives, if they could be jailed, if they could be beaten, and do it all for somebody that they never knew would exist, known as Jasmine Crockett, then I can do just a little bit by making sure that I raise my voice. And to be perfectly honest, I know that they all talk about how Christian they are, but I am the child of a preacher, and I am going to say that God has not given me a spirit of fear. So I will not be intimidated. I will not be scared. I know that what I am doing is right. No matter how they try to persecute me, no matter how many lies they put out against me, I will stand strong, because I know how I got here, and I know that the generations coming behind me deserve it. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
that is Jasmine Crockett, she's a young congresswoman from Texas.
And she talks about fear. I think, fear is a human feeling. I mean, there's nothing wrong with fear. We all have a dash of it. And sometimes that's the motivation to get up and do what you need to do. So, anyone else?
Something gentle. I'm reminded of a haiku. Standing on the rim, eyes closed, warm sun, gentle breeze. Which way do I step?
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. Yeah, I love that feeling. The more it's so easy to retreat back into the cave, as it were, to go the easy way, to the easy answer, the short answer, and to step out there and to ask the tough questions and to really, tear your soul apart, as it were. That's where the truth is for you. And I love that. What doesn't hurt isn't worth it.
I've been sitting here debating what we're talking about. We have principles what we should stick by. But if we want to be heard, other people listen to us, we also have to listen to them. So a little bit of doubt back there. You may find that you were wrong, that you might have made a mistake. We have certain principles to stick to, love for each other, respect, and but we also have to.
MLK, Faith, and these are his words, faith is taking the first step even when you can't see the whole staircase. And then the poem, go with faith, not the kind that is called to move mountains, but the quieter sort that calls us to take the first step, even when the whole staircase sits beyond your view. As we stride toward the unseen, may we notice that the way unfolds only as we risk traveling it. And may we remember and trust that none of these steps are ones we take alone. Amen. And I don't think I said, but that was a poem by Reverend Scott Taylor. All right.
And now we're going to extinguish the chalice. The words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, that not the light of truth, the warmth of community. Did I'll bless your way. Thy starlight guide your journey into peace and the gladness of day.
This is Sheep May Safely Graze by Bach.
Blessings to you all and have a wonderful week.